All right, April, thank you. Earlier this morning, the 14-year-old suspect in that deadly high school shooting in Georgia made his appearance in court.
This comes just 2 days after the mass shooting that left, as you know by now, two students and two teachers dead. The 14-year-old, meanwhile, was arraigned on 4 counts of felony murder and didn't enter a plea. He'll stay in jail, his lawyer not even seeking bail. The suspect's dad, who was arrested in connection to the shooting, also faced a judge just minutes after his son this morning. Investigators say Colin Gray bought the AR-style gun used in that shooting as a gift for his son.
Charges stem for Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son, Colt, to possess a weapon.
So Colin Gray is facing 2 counts of second-degree murder and 8 counts of cruelty to children. Last year, investigators interviewed the teen and his dad after they say officials received, quote, several anonymous tips about online threats of a possible shooting targeting an unidentified school. But authorities determined there was no probable cause at that time for an arrest.
So definitely an interesting turn of events. So joining us this morning to give us a better understanding of the case and the legal side of this is Josh Kolsrud, a federal criminal defense attorney with Kolsrud Law Offices. So Josh, thank you for joining us this morning. One of the questions is him being tried as an adult. We were asking you, how difficult is something like that?
Well, legally speaking, it's not very difficult for a prosecutor to charge a child or a juvenile as an adult. But the difficulty arises when they're trying to convince a jury later on that this juvenile had the mental capacity to understand the consequences of his actions. And in this particular case, there are some other issues that'll make it difficult for the prosecution as well. The prosecution charged the father, among other things, with second-degree murder. And in Georgia, one of the elements of second-degree murder is child cruelty. So in order to commit child cruelty, the prosecutor must show that the father, his actions of leaving a weapon unsupervised and available for his son caused immeasurable harm emotionally to the son that caused him to commit the murder. In other words, the prosecution has to admit that there was something wrong mentally with his son, Colt Gray in this case. And that's half the battle for a defense attorney when they're trying to say that there was insanity or some type of diminished capacity when he committed the murders.
I think the more details we find out about this case, the more we're shaking our heads in disbelief that the father they're saying he bought this gun as a gift for his son. So clearly the investigation a year ago, how will that play a role in all this when they had online threats? They were investigating the two of them. The father obviously knew and lied at that time, right?
Yes. And so, you said a couple of things that are very important. Number one, the biggest piece of evidence against the father is going to be buying that AR-15 as a Christmas present months after his son was interviewed by local law enforcement. Now, what's interesting about this case is that the FBI knew about these threats and they chose not to interview themselves Colt Gray. And throughout my career, I've worked with the FBI and I still do to this day. And I've had personal conversations with them about similar cases. And it's my instinct that because of, let's say, the January 6th case, where the FBI has expanded so many resources into that prosecution, they just don't have the resources right now to interview and follow through with every criminal lead regarding mass shootings. Usually they do not delegate that duty to local law enforcement. If this would have happened 5 years ago, it would have been the FBI knocking on the Gray's door.
Wow. So as we get into this court case as a fellow attorney, what are you specifically interested in watching for?
Well, there's a few things. Number one, there's going to be 2 cases. There's going to be the case against the father, and there's going to be the case against his son. Now, what's going to be interesting to see is, which case is going to be tried first. Is it going to be the son or the father? And also, I really want to see what the defense comes up with some type of diminished capacity. Diminished capacity is, a general term, a legal term that, where the defense claims that a person didn't understand and appreciate the wrongfulness of his actions. And so the dynamic between Colt Gray and his mother, his father, and other dynamics, there was some domestic violence involved. There's the Child Protective Services of Georgia were called on numerous occasions. All of that is going to come into this.
Well, Josh, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's a sad case all the way around.
Absolutely.
It's a tragedy.
So many levels on so many levels.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your insight.